Welcome back to County Board Wrap Up, our monthly chat with the county board members about the actions they took this month that affect you, your neighbors, and your community. With us here today is Board Chair Katie Crystal and Board Member Eric Gutschall. Thank you both once again. Let's talk a little bit about the Ballston development. This was a townhouse residential development plan that the board approved, and it was a little controversial. Talk about the project a little bit and tell me a little bit about what some concerns were here.
Sure. Well, it's an infill development, meaning there was a lot of development that had happened over the last 30 years on the block that this project is proposed and surrounding it. And so, the neighbors were concerned about things that we always want to be concerned about. We have a public review process, our site plan review committee, that includes members of the local community and our planning commission and transportation and other commissions that try to look at how can we mitigate some of the impacts that come. And so it was certainly points were made and discussions about what's the appropriate height, what's the appropriate density, how do you handle open space, because we want this infill development to be part of the community, to integrate into the community and to create livable communities. And the thing that the reason I was very comfortable supporting this project was because as infill development, it's ownership opportunity. It's a 7-story condominium building and some townhomes that are consistent with our long-range plan for the area, the Ballston sector plan that was adopted many decades ago. And this is probably one of the last on this side of Ballston infill spots that will be redeveloped under the sector plan, but very consistent with it. So we had the process that came through, and I think in the end, the process worked, and we were able to look at how are we going to manage traffic, how are we going to mitigate some of the impacts. The buildings ended up being a little closer together than some would have preferred, and that's just some of the tension and the tug pull that we have to wrestle with as we do this kind of redevelopment in a spot that you can walk to Metro, and so we had to wrestle with that, and ultimately we approved the project.
That's what I was going to say, being that close to the Metro, the convenience of that, and going along with our smart growth idea of concentrating the development right there, but definitely can understand concerns. We're seeing a lot of changes around Ballston right now, with the mall going in, or Ballston Quarter, and a lot of new development. Is there a concern, is something you heard from the residents that perhaps the urban village is getting maybe a little too developed?
Sure, I think we hear that not only in Ballston, but from every corner of Arlington County. Folks do worry, of course, about the pace of development. I think our answer is exactly what Eric alluded to, which is that we do things planfully. We seek to make decisions not based on the preferences of the current or future or other residents, but rather to look for consistency with our plans, which are actually developed by residents and community voices. And so that was the application that we applied here, that was the lens that we applied here, consistency with the Ballston sector plan, although it is a little outdated, and our principles of urban design. That's how we arrived at the decisions that we made, and that's how we'll arrive at decisions for future density throughout the county, mitigating against the concerns Eric talked about, while also expanding the ability of people to live here and to own homes here. This is really important.